morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and on the show today, Israel has said that all parties have signed the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, adding that Hamas freeing the captives would bring the end to the war. The agreement in Egypt follows a 20-point peace plan for Gaza announced last month by US President Donald Trump. Of course, we're going to get you all the details on the show today. Stay tuned.
Also on the show from the United States, a federal judge has ordered a temporary halt to President Donald Trump's deployment of hundreds of National Guard troops in the Chicago area as part of his sweeping crime and immigration crackdown. Now, Trump's administration has argued the troops are necessary to protect immigration agents and facilities. Of course, we'll bring you all the details on that on the show. We begin with the headlines.
Israeli government says all parties have signed the first phase of a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, adding that Hamas freeing the captives would bring the end to this war. Netanyahu calls it a momentous development.
The hostages will be coming back Monday or Tuesday. I'll probably be there.
Donald Trump says he expects to travel to West Asia on Sunday to celebrate the first phase of the Gaza peace deal and be there for the release of hostages by Hamas.
Putin says Israel has conveyed that it is not interested in confrontation with Iran and remains committed to pursuing settlement in Gaza. Russian president emphasizes that Moscow maintains trusting contacts with Israel.
Multiple explosions and sound of drones heard over central Kiev as Ukrainian Air Force warns of massive Russian attack. Energy minister says Russian forces are inflicting large-scale strike on energy grid.
Spain, you have to call them and find why are they a laggard. They have no excuse not to do this, but that's all right. Maybe you should throw them out of NATO, frankly.
Donald Trump suggests Spain be expelled from NATO over its failure to match higher defense spending requirement he established as Spain's prime minister, and says that Madrid would not need to hit the target.
Belgian authorities arrest 3 individuals suspected of a jihadist-inspired plot to attack Prime Minister Bart de Wever and other politicians using drone-mounted explosives.
US Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. promotes new fringe theory linking autism to circumcision or related pain medication. Trump echoes claim warning against Tylenol use during pregnancy and infancy.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un holds talks with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, praising friendly and cooperative ties with Beijing as Kim oversees celebrations marking 80th anniversary of ruling Workers' Party.
US weekly jobless claims rose to 235,000 as early layovers linked to the government shutdown continue. The shutdown also delayed key employment data, clouding the outlook for the Federal Reserve and businesses.
And suffer their first defeat at the 2025 ICC Women's World Cup. Nadine de Klerk hits a blistering unbeaten 84 from 54 balls as South Africa produced a stunning comeback to beat co-hosts by 3 wickets. And the Gaza ceasefire has taken effect. Israeli cabinet has ratified a ceasefire plan to bring home the last surviving hostages and end the war.
President Donald Trump has claimed that there would be an everlasting peace in Gaza and announced that he will be heading to West Asia soon.
The most cabinet ministers voted in favor of the deal, including one minister of the far-right religious Zionism party led by Bezalel Smotrich. However, other members of the party led by a finance minister voted against the deal.
Now, the release of the hostages in exchange for Palestinian security prisoners and a partial IDF withdrawal is the first phase of Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan.
Now, as per the deal, the IDF will now withdraw to new lines inside the Gaza Strip, retaining a deployment controlling of almost half of the territory, after which the 72-hour window for Hamas to release all the hostages will commence.
Now, as per reports, 200 American troops will be sent to Israel to help oversee the deal. They will be part of a force that includes partner nations. No American soldiers are expected to be deployed to Gaza.
Now, President Trump said on Thursday that disarmament would be part of the second phase of a Gaza deal, with Israel insisting that Hamas must give up its weapons.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that because you sort of know what phase 2 is, but there will be disarming, there will be pullbacks, there will be a lot of things that are happening. You know, I gave you a whole list of 22 different things that will take place.
Now, Trump said that he would travel on Sunday to attend the formal signing of the deal in Egypt. The deal was thrashed out in indirect closed-door talks in the Red Sea resort town of Sharm el-Sheikh.
He is also expected to visit Israel to celebrate what he called a day of joy with the release of the hostages on either Monday or Tuesday. Now, Trump confirmed he had been invited to speak at Israel's Knesset.
Earlier, U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner traveled to Israel, where they met both Netanyahu and Israeli President Isaac Herzog. The pair later participated in the government meeting held to approve the plan.
We are at a momentous development in the last 2 years. We fought during these 2 years to achieve our war aims, and a central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead. And we're about to achieve that goal. We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Earlier, senior Hamas leader and lead negotiator Khalil al-Hayat had said that the group has received guarantees from the United States, Arab mediators, and Turkey that the war on Gaza has permanently ended.
We have received guarantees from the mediators and the U.S. administration, assuring us that the war has ended completely. We will continue to work with national and Islamic forces to complete the remaining steps, working to achieve the interests of our Palestinian people, enabling them to determine their own destiny and fulfill their rights. This will continue until the establishment of an independent state with Jerusalem as its capital.
However, Hamas says it has not agreed to the plan's call to disarm and a proposed transitional authority for Gaza led by Trump himself. Senior Hamas official Osama Hamdan claimed that all the factions, including the Palestinian Authority, reject this.
Meanwhile, the United Nations has said that it had a detailed 60-day plan to rush aid into Gaza. The chief of the UN humanitarian chief said that 170,000 metric tons of aid is ready to go into Gaza.
And for more, we're now being joined by Dr. Peter Kuznick from Tokyo. He's a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University. Thank you so much, Professor Kuznick, for joining us on the broadcast.
My pleasure.
Professor Kuznick, now Israeli government says that all parties have agreed to the first phase of a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, but we know that a lot of contingencies still remain and navigating them would be a task. Do you think it's a real breakthrough, or is there still reason to tread with caution going forward?
We have to be cautious, but it is at least a positive first step in the right direction. But as you're suggesting, the difficult issues still need to be worked out. What they've agreed on is the easy part, although even this has been difficult to achieve. But compared to dealing with the issues of disarming Hamas, of who's going to run the government in the future, of rebuilding Gaza, of feeding the children and the other starving people there, the big questions are still ahead of us. So we shouldn't start celebrating in the streets. We should be happy that there's at least a first step, but the rest we have to be cautious because there are very, very difficult issues to be resolved that have not begun to be addressed yet.
Absolutely, and it's, of course, is to say that, of course, it is positive. Also, there happens to be reports about 200 U.S. troops who will be sent to monitor this. Is that sort of a look into how international security force will come to play?
Well, there's going to be troops from a lot of different countries there. The U.S. is not so much sending troops on the ground as experts who are going to help with implementing some of these changes. But at the same time this is happening, we're seeing reports that UN international peacekeeping forces are going to be slashed by 25%, largely because the U.S. is cutting funding. So we've got contradictory messages, as we've had all along with what's going on. We look at Trump's role, for example. It's great that he put pressure on Israel and Hamas to come to this agreement. But he could have done this any time in the past 8 months since he's been in office, and he's neglected to do so. He's provided the arms, he's provided the funding that made this genocide possible. So, yeah, he wants to take credit. He wants to get his Nobel Peace Prize. But the reality is he's got so much blood on his hand for what the United States has been doing for the past 8-9 months that this is a small step in the right direction and needs to be applauded. But this is something that should have been achieved months and months ago before so many tens of thousands of Palestinians and some Israelis were killed in the process. So it's something to celebrate, but we should keep this in proportion and understand Trump's role positive and mostly horribly negative in this regard.
Well, of course, we still have to be hopeful regarding that, and you're nowhere wrong there to say that. Also, about the post-Gaza war plans, considering Hamas will be, of course, President Trump has said that the hostages will be released on Monday. When it comes to the role of Hamas, once the hostages are, of course, released, what kind of role will Hamas be playing? Of course, that's somehow in the limbo, but how do you see it? As President Trump has said on Thursday that disarmament will be part of the second phase.
Yes, and there's no agreement yet on what that's going to look like. Most of the Palestinians and a lot of other Gulf Arabs don't trust Israel at all. We see the role that Netanyahu's been playing in all of this. While some of the right-wing forces in his cabinet have gone along with this first phase of the agreement, others have not. So his cabinet is potentially in a tenuous situation. There's no guarantee that the Netanyahu government will last or that Netanyahu will follow through. I mean, has not been a trustworthy partner. And we don't know that Hamas is going to be a trustworthy partner. It's a region in which there are a lot of bad guys and very few good guys right now. But what changed the dynamic was the Israeli bombing of Hamas officials in Qatar, in Doha. That really changed the dynamic and gave Trump some more leverage to, along with the pressure from the other Gulf Arab states, to try to at least get this first phase of agreement. But there's so little trust between the different sides here that, again, there's no guarantee that this will hold going forward. It's more positive than negative at the moment. So we have to have something to build on, and at least that's beginning to take shape.
True. Well, of course, we'll be looking forward and have a hopeful thought about this going smoothly. But thank you so much for joining us on the show and giving your perspective.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And Russia has launched a massive attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, causing widespread power outages and water supply issues in the capital city of Kiev.
Now, the attack has left several regions without electricity, with critical infrastructure severely damaged. Ukrainian energy minister has confirmed that the attack, stating that the energy experts are working to minimize the damage and restore functionality as soon as safety conditions do permit. Now, mayor said that the strikes left at least 9 people wounded in Kiev, 5 of whom were taken to hospital. Residents have been urged to seek shelter immediately as Russia continues to target Kiev with ballistic missiles and drones. Now, several journalists in the city have also reported hearing several powerful explosions and experiencing power outages.
Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Russia of seeking to create chaos and apply psychological pressure on the Ukrainian population.
According to reports, Russian drones have also carried out strikes in Zaporizhia, injuring at least 3 people. The attacks are part of ongoing hostilities in the region.
In another incident, the Russian Defense Ministry has claimed that Ukrainian forces blew up an ammonia pipeline in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region near the front line, Vilahi of Rusin Yar, to slow down Russian troops. Now, the incident released ammonia residues due to casualties, which were reported among Russian forces. A video released by the ministry shows a large vapor cloud coming out of the damaged pipeline. According to a producer in Russia using the pipeline, it ceased operations shortly after Moscow launched its 2022 offensive. Ukraine hasn't commented on the incident yet.
In Sloviansk, in eastern Ukraine, Russian forces have dropped 3 guided FAB-250 bombs, injuring 7 people. And according to local authorities, the officials are now urging residents to evacuate due to escalating Russian attacks on energy and heating infrastructure.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that U.S. and NATO allies are increasing pressure on Russia to end the war in Ukraine. And this is following a failed attempt to broker a ceasefire with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump stated this during a meeting with the Finnish President Alexander Stubb, emphasizing NATO's crucial role in their collective efforts.
We're stepping it up together. We're all stepping it up. NATO's been great.
Now we have some breaking news just coming in. A powerful earthquake has struck off the southern Philippines, with the local seismology office saying that damage and aftershocks were expected.
And this is as per the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. The magnitude of the earthquake was 7.6 on the Richter scale. The USGS reported the intensity as 7.4. The Philippine agency issued a tsunami warning following the quake, which struck about 20 kilometers away from the town of Manay in the Mindanao region at around 9:43 a.m. local time.
Now, 1-meter waves are forecast on the country's Pacific coast over the next 2 hours. The warning said that the coastal residents in these areas are strongly advised to leave immediately to higher grounds or move farther inland. Now, this is breaking news just coming in from the Philippines. A powerful earthquake has struck off the southern Philippines.
Right, and with the local seismology office saying that the damage and aftershocks were expected. And as per the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, the magnitude of the earthquake was 7.6 on the Richter scale. The USGS report the intensity as 7.4. The Philippine agency issued a tsunami warning following the quake, which struck about 20 kilometers from the town of Manay in the Mindanao region at around 9:43 a.m. local time. And China-Taiwan tensions continue to remain in the global spotlight.
While China intensifies military and gray zones tactics, Taiwan's key focus lies on bolstering its defense capabilities and national resilience.
Taiwan President Lai Ching-te is likely to announce a new advanced all-domain air defense system dubbed Taiwan Dome. Reports citing sources reveal in order to strengthen the island nation's defense against Beijing. The system will help address increasingly complex threats such as dealing with a combination of drones, rockets, missiles and military aircraft.
And this comes as democratically governed Taiwan, which China views as its own territory, has faced increased military pressure from Beijing over the past 5 years, including at least 7 rounds of major war games around the island since 2022.
Drones have also been a new robust part of China's strategy in increasing its gray zone tactics surrounding Taiwan. In order to counter such attacks in future, Taiwan's defense ministry says it is training soldiers to shoot down drones in response.
Basically, the drone development and anti-drone developments are very fast, and based on today's development, there's different progress every day. How we use that new technology and find effective anti-drone systems in the current environment, this is something that we are continuing to make efforts on. This is one of our key points in our military preparedness efforts.
In recent years, China has deployed its Coast Guard on patrol exercises and boarded Taiwanese fishing ships in the waters surrounding Taiwan. And in addition to deploying the People's Liberation Army on regular large-scale exercises, Taiwan's government has embarked on a military modernization program and has pledged to spend 5% of its GDP on defense by 2030. Taiwan President Lai Ching-te has also repeatedly rejected Beijing's sovereignty claims, saying only the island's people can decide their future. From the U.S., a federal judge in Chicago has temporarily blocked U.S. President Donald Trump's deployment of hundreds of National Guard soldiers in Illinois.
Now, the ruling will halt the president's plans for now. The White House will appeal the decision. Trump could also tap other executive authority to mobilize troops to support his immigration crackdown.
National Guard troops from Illinois and Texas have been posted in southwest suburban Elwood since early this week. The state of Illinois has sued the Trump administration over the deployment. U.S. District Judge April Perry has said that permitting Guard troops in the state would only add fuel to the fire. The order will remain in effect until at least October 23rd.
Judge Perry did a very careful job of weighing the evidence, weighing the credibility of the evidence and those declarations that served as the testimony to be considered as to whether or not the President of the United States could and should federalize and deploy the National Guard into our great city and our great state. And I think after doing so, she made the correct decision to enter a temporary restraining order.
Now, the outcome of this case could have significant implications for Trump's expanding campaign to deploy military personnel to U.S. cities. A White House spokesperson said the administration would appeal the order.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has criticized President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago and other cities, accusing the administration of overstepping constitutional limits and militarizing urban areas under the guise of law enforcement.
We've seen at every turn that they've tried to militarize our cities. Indeed, look at what ICE and CBP are doing. They're wearing fatigues. They're carrying long guns, automatic weapons. They're coming to downtown Chicago, Michigan Avenue. What is the purpose of that? It's all a show.
But President Trump has warned that his administration will expand a federal law and order push to Chicago after operations in Memphis, adding the effort would extend to other cities as well.
And we're restoring law and order in our country, and we're restoring it here, but we're restoring it right now. We're in Memphis, we're going to Chicago, we're going to other cities. Many governors are asking us to, including Democrats are trying to ask. I don't know what the big problem is. If I were a Democrat governor, I'd be saying, whatever you can do to get crime down, I'll take anybody.
Protesters holding placards and chanting slogans against Trump's immigration crackdown gathered outside a federal facility near Chicago, where the U.S. president sent National Guard troops to protect the premises.
Migra, chinga la migra, chinga la migra, chinga la migra. Illinois don't want you. Chicago hates.
And with that, it's time for a short break on World DNA.
But don't go anywhere. Let's end up on the other side. Afghan authorities reported an explosion occurred in the capital city of Kabul late on Thursday night. A Land Cruiser vehicle was hit in the explosion. We'll get you all the details on that on the other side. Keep watching WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One and it's World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar, and my colleague Disha Bisla. Let's begin with the headlines.
Philippine Seismology Office issues tsunami warning after a 7.4 magnitude quake strikes off southern island of Mindanao. 1 meter waves are forecast on the country's Pacific coast over the next 2 hours.
Ukraine says Russia has launched a massive attack on capital Kyiv, triggering power cuts, as a minister warns that Moscow is also striking hard at the national energy grid.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says government has approved framework for hostage release deal with Hamas as both sides edge closer to ending more than 2 years of hostilities in Gaza.
Putin says Israel has conveyed that it is not interested in confrontation with Iran and remains committed to pursuing settlement in Gaza. Russian president emphasizes Moscow maintains trusting contacts with Israel.
And you have to call them and find why are they a laggard. They have no excuse not to do this, but that's all right. Maybe you should throw them out of NATO, frankly.
Donald Trump suggests Spain be expelled from NATO over its failure to match higher defense spending requirement. He, established as Spain's prime minister, insists that Madrid would not need to hit the target.
Venezuela asked UN Security Council to hold emergency talks over mounting threats from the United States, which has sent warships to the Caribbean to fight drug trafficking.
Belgian authorities arrest 3 individuals suspected of a jihadist-inspired plot to attack Prime Minister Bart de Wever and other politicians using drone-mounted explosives.
U.S. weekly jobless claims rose to 235,000 as early layoffs linked to the government shutdown continue. The shutdown has also delayed key employment data, clouding the outlook for the Federal Reserve and businesses.
Los Angeles Lakers forward LeBron James will miss a season opener for the first time in his career due to sciatica on his right side. The 40-year-old, who is entering his 23rd NBA season, will be re-evaluated in 3 to 4 weeks. Afghan authorities reported an explosion that occurred in the capital city of Kabul late on Thursday night.
And according to reports, a Land Cruiser vehicle has hit the explosion. The explosion occurred near Abdul Haq Square. The report cited local authorities as saying that the intersection was closed following the incident, leading to severe traffic congestion in the area.
In a post on X, Afghan Taliban spokesperson Zaibullah Mujahid has asked residents not to worry, claiming it was all well and done and that an investigation into the incident is underway.
The incident occurred after Afghanistan's acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi arrived in New Delhi for a week-long visit to India. It marks the first high-level delegation from Kabul to New Delhi since the Taliban took control of Afghanistan in August 2021.
Earlier on Thursday, addressing Pakistan's National Assembly, Defence Minister Khwaja Asif issued an enough is enough warning for Afghanistan. He said their patience was running out, calling terrorism from Afghan soil intolerable. Asif cited the time he and other officials had visited Kabul 3 years ago and warned terrorists operating from the city to shut down their hideouts but received no firm guarantees. He then warned about going after terrorist facilitator wherever they are.
If a group of 10-12 individuals from a village or province attacks our soldiers, there will be a decisive response. While every effort will be made to avoid collateral damage, those who harbor or support terrorists must understand that there will be consequences. Enough is enough. Our tolerance has limits, and that limit has been reached.
Madagascar's capital is burning. The Gen Z-led anti-corruption movement is gaining momentum.
And this is after protesters rejected dialogue with the country's president. Fresh wave of demonstrations unfolded a short while back as protesters renewed their demand for President Rajolina's immediate resignation.
I think it will continue because our problem has not yet been resolved. Our problem is that President Rajolina does not want to leave, even though the people are demanding his departure.
Police was seen firing rubber bullets and tear gas as security forces try to quell the escalating demonstrations in Madagascar's capital.
The youth-led movement began on September 25th over water and electricity shortages, but the unrest is severely impacting stability, which in turn has a dire effect on small businesses.
We will have to close the restaurant because there are no more customers, you can't keep merchandise and there's no money. I support the protest because I'm a victim, I'm one of the victims.
Now, after the incumbent president sacked the whole government and appointed a new prime minister, the protest has evolved into a larger political uprising against him. Demonstrators have repeatedly accused the government of ignoring their grievances for more than a decade.
And menstrual leave will now be a reality in India's Karnataka state.
In a landmark step towards workplace inclusivity, Karnataka government has approved a policy granting 12 paid menstrual leave annually.
While women will be allowed to get 1 day of paid menstrual leave each month, the new policy will apply to both government and private sector employees. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has called the decision a step towards a more humane, understanding and inclusive workplace. He said the government is committed to upholding dignity and well-being at work.
Now, Karnataka is home to over 60 million people and is India's technology capital, with Bengaluru serving as a hub of multinational companies. India currently has no national menstrual leave policy, though states like Bihar and Kerala have limited provisions in place.
Around the world, countries such as Japan, Indonesia and Spain have implemented menstrual leave laws, though the extent of their enforcement and acceptance varies.
And Hungarian author Laszlo Krasznahorkai has been awarded the 2025 Nobel Prize in Literature.
The Swedish Academy praised his compelling and visionary overall that, in the midst of apocalyptic terror, reaffirms the power of art.
The Nobel Prize in Literature for 2025 is awarded to the Hungarian author Laszlo Krasznahorkai.
The honor places Laszlo Krasznahorkai among the elite club of global literary giants. His work, deeply rooted in Central European tradition and is known for absurdism, grotesque, excess and contemplative tones, it is celebrated for exploring profound crises in humanity while highlighting the resilience found in creativity and artistic expression.
He now joins past literature Nobel laureates like Hemingway, Morrison and Ishiguro. The Nobel Prize in Literature recognizes authors who transform the way we see the world and inspire generations with their storytelling.
Now let's look at the Nobel winners so far this year and what's coming up. On October 6th, the Nobel in Medicine went to Mary Brunko, Fred Ramsdell and Shimon Sakaguchi. They uncovered how the body stops its own immune system from attacking itself.
On the 7th, the Physics Nobel went to John Clark, Michael Devored and John Martinez. Now, they showed quantum effects in electric circuits, a step towards quantum technology.
On October 8th, the Chemistry Nobel was awarded to Susumu Kitagawa, Richard Robson, and Omar Yagi. They developed metal organic frameworks, materials with tiny cavities that can trap gases, purify water, and more.
Well, two big prizes still await. The Peace Prize will be announced on October 10th in Oslo. The Economics Prize comes later. Within that October 6th to 13th window, the formal award ceremony happens on December 10th each year. All right, moving on. Qatar Airways has been accused of negligence after a passenger choked to death mid-flight on a piece of food while trying to avoid eating meat.
Now, the family of the California man traveling on the flight from US to Sri Lanka has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the airline.
According to a lawsuit filed by the passenger's son, the airline failed to provide a pre-ordered vegetarian meal. Instead, he was given a regular meal with meat and then asked to eat around it. 85-year-old Ashoka Jayavira, a cardiologist and a strict vegetarian, tragically passed away on the 30th of June 2023. The incident has come to light recently, raising several questions about passenger safety on flights.
Now, the flight made an emergency landing in Scotland's Edinburgh, where the passenger was rushed to a hospital but died there on August 3rd, 2023, and this is due to aspiration pneumonia, a lung infection caused by accidentally inhaling food or liquid. Now, reports reveal Qatar Airways crew members stepped in to help the passenger when he began choking. However, the pilot was unable to make an emergency landing because the plane was traveling over the Arctic Ocean.
Now, according to the complaint, cabin crew contacted Merair, a service where aviation-trained emergency doctors remotely guide airline staff through in-flight medical emergencies. Jayavira's son has sued the airline, seeking damages for negligence and wrongful death of his father. He's asking for compensation now, along with the cost of the court case and lawyers' fees.
And gold is on a record-breaking run while the US dollar continues to slide.
What's driving this trend and what does it mean for investors and the global economy? Take a look at this next report for more details. Gold prices have hit a historic high above $4,000 an ounce, up 54% year to date. Meanwhile, the US dollar has weakened more than 9% against major currencies in 2025. Experts point to President Trump's trade policies, rising tariffs, and the country's growing structural deficit as key reasons behind the dollar's slide. Investors are seeking safety, turning to gold, Bitcoin, and Ethereum to hedge against currency and economic risks. The gold rally is being propelled by several factors. Central banks around the world are diversifying reserves into gold. Foreign investors have poured $788 billion into US stocks and bonds this year, even while hedging dollar exposure. Rising inflation, volatile oil prices, and global uncertainties are further pushing investors towards safe haven assets, giving gold a strong upward momentum. Gold's link to the US dollar goes back to the gold standard and the Bretton Woods system. Today, as the dollar weakens, gold becomes cheaper for investors holding other currencies, driving demand. Analysts now predict that gold could reach $5,000 per ounce by the end of 2026 if the current trends continue. With safe haven demand rising and countries reducing reliance on the dollar, gold's role as a hedge against economic and currency risk has never been clearer. Business Bureau, WION The World is one. And Google has launched a new AI platform for business customers called Gemini Enterprise.
Now, as the tech giant steps up its push to attract more corporate clients to its artificial intelligence tools, Gemini Enterprise is powered by Google's most advanced AI models and acts as a conversational platform that allows employees to interact directly with their company's data, documents, and applications.
The company has said the platform will offer a range of pre-built AI agent capsule of handling tasks such as deep research, data analysis, and insight generation. It will also let businesses build and deploy their own custom AI agents. Google has already signed new customers for Gemini Enterprise, including apparel retailer Gap, design software maker Figma, and buy now pay later lender Klarna.
The launch comes as tech rivals such as Microsoft, OpenAI, and Anthropic also expand their AI offerings for enterprise clients. A segment seen as crucial to boosting returns on heavy AI investments, Gemini Enterprise builds on Google's existing suite for business users, Google Workspace, which already features AI tools powered by Gemini, such as email summaries, document drafting, and automated data sites. With Gemini Enterprise, Google is positioning itself as a full-service provider of business AI solutions, offering both ready-made and customized options for companies looking to deploy artificial intelligence at a scale. And are you fed up with the overcast skies and the prolonged monsoon? Do you yearn for the sun to shine bright?
Well, you might be disappointed. There is now data to suggest that India is losing its sunshine to cloud cover and bad air. A scientist from the Banaras Hindu University, Pune-based Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology and India Meteorological Department have found that sunshine hours across most parts of India have been steadily declining over the past 3 decades. Now, it's a trend that's linked to thicker cloud cover and rising aerosol pollution. The study, published in a journal called Nature's Scientific Reports, has examined sunshine hour data from 20 met stations across 9 regions between 1988 and 2018. It was found that the annual sunshine hour declined in all regions except Northeast, where a marginal seasonal leveling off was seen. The annual sunshine hour, the total duration when sunlight is strong enough to be recorded as a sunshine hour.
Now, the study reveals that on average, the West Coast saw sunshine hours fall by 8.6 hours per year, while the North Indian Plains recorded the steepest drop at 13.1 hours a year. The East Coast and Deccan Plateau also showed downward trends of 4.9 and 3.1 hours per year, respectively. Now, even the Central Inland region showed a loss of about 4.7 hours per year.
According to the study, sunshine increased between the months of October and May during the 30-day period of the study between 1988 and 2018. It declined sharply from June to September, coinciding with the monsoon during the same period. Well, scientists say that decreasing sunshine is attributed to a phenomenon known as solar dimming. Now, solar dimming happens when higher aerosol numbers increase the residence time of clouds in the atmosphere, reducing the hours of sunlight reaching the ground.
Higher aerosol concentrations that are tiny particles released from industrial emissions, biomass burning, and vehicular pollution create smaller and longer-lived cloud droplets that keep skies overcast for extended periods. The decline in sunshine hours has major implications for solar energy generation, agriculture, and climate modeling. While India has emerged as one of the fastest-growing solar markets, reduced solar incidence could affect power output and long-term planning for renewable infrastructure.
Now, shifting focus to the world of sports, India take on West Indies in the second and final test beginning today.
Now, the series finale will be held at the Arjun Jaitley Stadium in New Delhi, and the host will once again enter the game as overwhelming favorites.
Well, the first test was over in 2.5 days. India completed an innings and 140-run victory at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. That pitch was one of the greenest in India since the World Test Championship began in 2019. But the pitch in Delhi is expected to be much more batting friendly. Anything other than an Indian victory will be a massive upset.
Firstly, I don't think your intensity drops down depending on the opposition. The kind of it doesn't matter who we are playing. We want to be able to play at our own intensity, and we want to be able. When you're playing for India, you don't need external motivation to be able to up your intensity. Doesn't matter if you're playing West Indies, Bangladesh, Australia, or England. We want to be able to play at our own intensity, and we want to maintain our own standards.
Now, Delhi is the hometown of India head coach Gautam Gambhir, and he hosted the squad for a dinner on Wednesday night. The likes of Shubham Gill, Jasprit Bumrah and KL Rahul, Mohammad Siraj were present.
Now, as for West Indies, they will naturally want to put up more of a fight. West Indies were all out in 44.1 overs in the first innings in the Ahmedabad test and lasted just 45.1 overs in the second. In the current cycle of the World Test Championship, West Indies have lost all 4 tests so far.
The difference in the different teams, the top 3-4 teams in the world versus the bottom 4. We've been struggling for finance for a long time. I think that's one of the reasons why Brian, Saviv, Sir Richie, they're going to have this event this afternoon to try and see if we could get sponsors to help in some of the areas that we need improvement.
The current West Indies team is a far cry from the great sides of the 70s and 80s, which dominated world cricket. Vivian Richards was one of the main reasons for West Indies' dominance. Richards is regarded as a bona fide legend of the game, as is Brian Lara. And both of them enjoyed a game of golf in New Delhi on Wednesday. Cricket West Indies organized a golf day in partnership with the IGPL. The West Indies squad were also present at the event.
Well, we're just hoping that they can improve and can be competitive. And so long as they're competitive, I believe that things can work out. Even though India would have won the very first test match, I still have hope in my guys that at least they can give you a fight.
And the London Film Festival witnessed a grand opening with the Daniel Craig star Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery.
Well, the movie is the third installment of the Knives Out franchise. Find out more details about the event in our next report.
I wouldn't do it unless I had fun doing it. But when you get to work with someone like Ryan, who is just such a genius writer, so smart, and making movies like this, which all we're doing is we're setting out to make a movie that entertains and thrills people and gives something, and maybe gives them something to think about.
I meant it. I didn't need to read the script. There's 2 movies that have been proven to be incredibly funny, incredibly smart, that I was like, yeah, I just want to do it. I genuinely didn't care. And then he was like, you should read it, and I went, okay.
I think hopefully it's still funny, hopefully it's still entertaining and a really fun ride for audiences. I think that's always the most important thing for us.
Well, that's all we had for you in this edition of World DNA.
And we leave you with all the climate stories that are making headlines across the world. Stay tuned. You're watching WION What is Fun.
From Alia Bhatt and Deepika Padukone to Selena Gomez and Tom Holland, take a look at celebrities who have been vocal about dealing with mental health issues. Know all about Sean Diddy Combs' case and meet Indian singer Sonu Nigam. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
This week on the West Asia Post. 2 years of Palestinian suffering. A war recognized as genocide. A delicate ceasefire deal hinging on good faith. Will lasting peace return to Gaza? Yemen's Houthis escalate their war, turn Israel's Eilat into a frontline war zone. And in Syria, Aleppo turns into a battlefield. Government forces clash with Kurdish militia. A truce is announced, but tensions run high.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, every Friday at these times, only on WION. World is One.